Great. So we're on agenda item number 9. Again, if you wouldn't mind using the raised hand feature in Zoom. If you have questions, and again, we'd love to hear from your initial thoughts or comments that you have on the staff recommendation or anything else. Melanie Aldrich.
Yes, my name is Melanie Aldrich. I'm a lawyer for one of the participants. I understand from the earlier call that I listened to that you intend to have one of the parties be the water master. Is that just seems really, and I'll admit I don't practice. I mean, I'm a public agency lawyer. I do water, but I don't practice before the board on water rights stuff. Is that normal for one of the parties to, because I'm just wondering how that's going to work if you can't have ex parte discussions. You know, my client has had issues with MID not recognizing additional acres, even though we have it submitted by a report. So I guess I'm just not sure how that works, where one of the parties is also the water master and basically decides during whether we get water or not and how much. Are there other rivers that do this? Is this a normal staff deal?
Can I ask for some clarification? Do you mean once the adjudication process is complete, or do you mean while it is going on?
While it is going on. So I was thinking about the fact that after the October meeting, we won't be able to have ex parte discussions, sort of, you know, like we're having now, I guess. And I just wondered, A, how does that work when the water master is a party? And I presume at some points talking to the board about that. And 2, is it normal for in the next stage that we're going into, is it normal for one of the parties to also be the water master over the other parties?
Thanks for clarifying. I think there may be some misunderstanding that I want to address first. We don't intend to appoint any of the parties as a water master while the adjudication proceeds, if that's what happens. It's more that we don't anticipate making any changes to the status quo while the adjudication is ongoing, though that could change. We could get different board direction. There might be some sort of interim agreement from the parties that we can put out there. But essentially what would happen is that we don't expect to make any separate changes to administration of the Fresno River water until the adjudication is complete at this point. Although, as I said, that could change. And does that answer your second question regarding whether this is normal? Yeah,
I again, because I don't practice in this area, but I wonder about things where, you know, we have, as you probably read from the mediation report, there are multiple parties that have shown they have more acreage, riparian acreage. We've asked questions of MID. I guess I'm just not sure how, and I'll leave it to my litigator that I refer this to. I guess I'm just not sure how this works, where, you know, we're trying to get information from a party that should be available to everybody, but yet they're going to have some sort of attorney-client privilege to withhold information from the group.
This is Eric. Maybe we'll step in and just, maybe Amanda, I'll look back at you. Maybe you can describe what ex parte actually means in this context. I don't think it means that there are some groups that have access to information that others do or do not do. In fact, that's expressly what ex parte is meant to avoid. It's by putting the ex parte in place, what that means is that any discussion of material issues or facts has to be done in a public setting or venue. And there's ways we can do that, whether it's through an email server or a quasi hearing type process. But that's actually what ex parte is helping to address. And what we're proposing here is not to create some scenario where people don't have access to information or data. What the process would do would be actually to make sure that we are all relying on the same set of common assumptions, facts, and background historical information. Amanda or Connie or others, do you have more to add?
That's right, Eric. And I will also mention that the statutory adjudication procedures were enacted prior to the ex parte rules being formalized, but they do contain a provision that we will follow as closely as is reasonable. And I'll explain a little bit more about that in a second, to provide an opportunity for all the parties to see all of the proofs of claim and the other data that the board staff use to put together the order of the determination. So all of the evidence that the board staff rely upon to put together that report and order will be open to inspection to the parties. The reason I say we might do it, try to think of how to do it a little differently than is specifically set up in the statute, is that the statute contemplates a room with paper documentation in it. And with the COVID crisis and just simple efficiency, we might try to do that electronically if we can make that work for people.
I understand the ex parte. I guess you're going to gather information from MID, who's one of the parties. What if they don't turn over all the information? How will, I mean, I assume are only going to give you what they feel they can give you, protecting their position in the adjudication. And I'm kind of getting confused on just how that would work, where you're asking MID for information, you're going to rely on that, but you know, MID also has to protect MID's water interest, which is very understandable. So it seems like they're in a conflict about protecting themselves and yet giving you all the information that may work against them. And I don't know, I'm thinking about how discovery and all those kinds of things work when one of the parties has decades of information that the other parties don't have. And I'm not sure that they're going to be interested in giving us everything that they have so that we are all looking at the same information. And I think you get the gist of what I'm saying, but I have never seen a situation where one of the parties has all the information, has not shared it for one, you know, either attorney-client, privacy, whatever, but we're not all on a level playing field if that's the case. And that's my concern, is just making sure that everyone's on a level playing field. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate the concern, and you know, I will say that our goal will be to put everybody on a level playing field.
Are there any other questions or initial thoughts you all want to share with us? I do not see any raised hands at the moment.
Connie, this is Scott Cuney, and I apologize. I can't raise my hand, so I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
I apologize for my technical limitations here.
That's okay.
My question is, and I think you told me this, but I want to understand, will we see on the website the schedule of deadlines that are necessary to match up with the hearing scheduled for October 10th? I want to make sure that we have all of the submittal dates.
Yes, and thank you. Actually, I do have to make a quick correction. One of my staff reminded me, I misspoke earlier, so let me just recap. So the item is scheduled for October 20th. The agenda will come out, it typically comes out 10 days, sometimes a little bit before that, 10 days in advance of the scheduled board meeting. And the agenda will very clearly lay out all of the deadlines to submit written comments, which I apologize, I said 10 days earlier, you all had 10 days, but it's really only 5 days to submit written comments. But the agenda will spell all of that out very clearly, and also the manner in which to coordinate with the clerk of the board. And again, if you wish to organize as a panel, we would welcome that. We can help coordinate with you on that. There likely would be a time limit associated with a panel or individual board presentations, but yes, the agenda will spell all of that out very clearly. Does that answer your question, Scott?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much. And thanks for all your help. Thanks.
Yeah. And feel free, feel free to reach out to us if you do have questions. We will make every effort to post links and get note out to you all as soon as the agenda is posted to give you a heads up. But you feel free to check the board's website as well. Let's see.
Connie, I believe Mr. Herrick may have been raising his hand.
Oh, okay. Have not seen that. Apologies, Mr. Herrick. Audio issue? We cannot hear you.
If you're on the phone, you may need to press *6 to unmute yourself.
Okay, does that work now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. When the petition was first filed, we raised the issue of any rights to Fresno River water that might, in order to downstream interests. And I thought somebody was going to get back to us. I haven't heard anything since, and nothing in any of the proposals includes any discussions with people downstream on the San Joaquin River. So I was just wondering if there's any provision for that, or is the proposal that the adjudication will not address any downstream rights, and where does that stand?
This is Amanda Pearson. I will jump in. As a general matter, the report of investigation and preliminary order of determination we expect would encompass Fresno River rights and not define or determine any rights to the San Joaquin River or other downstream streams. But the consideration of downstream rights, I very much expect would be part of what goes into the determination of the water rights.
But I don't understand any other party is going to put on analysis of the amounts of water that might be in the river at what times of what years. So do I need to hire a consultant to determine that, or is this going to be done through this current process?
I think to some extent that will be included in the process, but I would also suggest that it is not a bad idea to hire a consultant of your own to protect your or your client's interests.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Are there any other questions or comments? I don't see any raised hand features. Maybe we can go to the phones.
Again, if you were on the phone, I believe you're muted by default. You can press *6 to unmute yourself, and feel free to speak up.
Well, I'm not seeing any raised hand features. I'm not hearing anybody. Okay. Well, thank you for joining us today. Please do feel free to reach out to staff if you have questions. And just the last plug to our website. And again, thank you for joining us in the meeting.